Good Shabbos. As we begin now the Torah once again, as you know, on Thursday night we finished reading the Torah into Friday morning. On Friday morning we finished the very end of Deuteronomy and then started right over again with the book of Genesis. And so in celebration of that, in celebration of Emmett becoming bar mitzvah, and in celebration of Congregational past President Steve Margolin's very special birthday, I've decided to engage in a little Bible quiz with all of you to see how you do. Are you ready? Who was the greatest male businessman in the entire Bible? Who was the greatest male businessman in the entire Bible? The answer obviously was Noah. He was floating his stock while everyone else was in liquidation. Not to be outdone, who was the greatest female businesswoman in the Bible? And now you're not sure. Pharaoh's daughter. She went down to the bank of the Nile and drew out a little profit. And finally, my last question for all of you. What did God say immediately after creating Adam, the first man? I can do much better than this. And was created. As Jews, we are commanded to ask questions. That is how we grow as human beings. That is how we grow as a people and as a community. It is how we make the world a better place. And not just the process of asking questions, but actually seeking answers. Now, we'll note we're in an interesting time in history. We have more knowledge at our fingertips than any other time in the world's history. We can ask and answer any question that we possibly want. Maybe. We have access to knowledge, but it seems that so many of us and those people around us, have access to knowledge but are lacking in wisdom. We can ask the questions, but are we asking the right questions? We can seek knowledge, but shouldn't we spend even more time pursuing wisdom? And maybe just not asking questions, but actually finding the teachers who can provide us with what we need to better understand the world, to bring healing to those who are in need, and to fix this very broken world in which we live. We turn this week to the very beginning of the Torah, to Sefer Bereishit, Parashat Bereishit. We're in the very beginning of Genesis. And here, of course, we read the story of Adam and Eve, and then their children, Cain and Abel. We know this story well. Emmett taught us about it beautifully. Now imagine the kind of people that Adam and Eve were, that they named their children Cain and Abel. Acquisition and vanity. Cain vehevel. Acquisition and vanity. These are the values, perhaps, that Adam and Eve saw as the ones they wanted to perpetuate into the world. But our rabbis of old, 2,000 years ago, were trying to understand the world around them. The violence, the suffering, the competition, the warfare that they saw in their day, which resembles so much of what we see in our own day. And so in a beautiful midrash, the rabbis actually go and ask the question, why did Cain kill Abel? What could possibly have happened? That the first set of siblings, one would rise up and kill the other. And so the rabbis dive into the text, and one rabbi in this beautiful midrash and Midrash Rabbah suggests, Cain and Abel saw that they had the whole world out before them. And so Cain said, okay, I'm a tiller of soil. I'll take all the earth and claim that as my possession. And Abel said, wait a second, I'm a herder of sheep. I'll claim everything that walks and moves on the land, and then we'll be good to go. Now you can imagine the fight that would come from this sort of claiming. One claims all the earth, the other one claims everything that walks on the earth. They got into a fight. Sure enough, Cain rises up and he kills Abel. And that is why we have so much violence in this world, because of our competition for land, for property, for wealth. Another rabbi comes and says, no, that's not what led to Cain killing Abel. That's not what led to this fight between siblings. Rather, each claimed their own set of property, and each claimed the animals that lived on their property. But then one brother said, aha, my property is more beautiful than yours, and therefore this is where the Beit HaMikdash, this is where the Holy Temple should stand one day. And the other brother said, no. My land is far more beautiful than yours, and I am far deeper of faith than you are. Therefore, the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, should stand on my ground one day. And sure enough, thus was born religious competition. And why is the world in such a terrible place today? Because of the competition and the fighting of one religion against another. One rabbi suggests that the world is in the state of affairs today because of a competition among property and wealth. Another one comes and says, no, it's about religious infighting. That's why our world is in the state of affairs that it is today. A third rabbi comes and says, no, I disagree with you. Why were Cain and Abel fighting with each other? Why were they constantly in competition with one another? This rabbi's answer? They were fighting over Eve. There was only one woman in the world at the time. And it's men's lustful competition that leads to the world as it is today. So I wonder, as you think about it, as you ask the question, how did we get to where we are today? Why is the world in the state of affairs as it is today? It's about the competition for land and wealth? Is it about the competition of religions? Or is it about the competition of men lusting after women and competing with each other over that lust? Those were the questions our rabbis asked 2,000 years ago, and they dove into the text to find the answers, to begin to illustrate, to understand, how did we get here? Rashi, 1,000 years ago, offers a slightly different answer. Why were Cain and Abel fighting? Why is it that Cain rose up to kill his brother Abel? Jealousy. God accepted Abel's sacrifice, but not Cain's. Cain was jealous of his brother Abel. And then Rashi elaborates a little further. Our world is in the state of affairs that it is today because one person blames another for all of the problems, but never accepts any of the blame upon himself or herself. And especially this theme coming out of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this idea that maybe we can't blame the other for all the problems. And a little cheshbon hanefesh, a little self-reflection is required to see that blame exists on both sides of a competition. How did we get to where we are today in this world that is so crazy and full of violence, hatred, mistrust, and anger? Is it a competition for wealth and land? Is it a competition of religions? Is it men competing to impress and win women? Is it jealousy and blame? The beginning of the entire Torah consumes itself with these questions and begs us, asks us to dive into our text to seek the wisdom, not only to understand how we got here, but how we can get out of this situation. Emmett taught us beautifully that God asked the question of Cain, where's your brother? And Cain, of course, says, am I my brother's keeper? Some rabbis teach that the entire Tanakh, the entire Hebrew Bible, is God's answer to that question. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. And your sisters too. And if we look at how in Genesis, some of the siblings who we know throughout this book, incredibly filled with conflict and tension, we start to see how the siblings begin to resolve the fighting that exists among them. We know that Isaac and Ishmael come together to bury their father. I spoke about that a little bit on Shmini Atzeret. We know that at the very end of Joseph, the brothers ask forgiveness. They realize the error of their ways. They ask forgiveness from their brother Joseph. And Joseph says all of this happened according to God's plan. Joseph had faith that all this was meant to be. He accepted his brother's apology. Now imagine in this world, if one sibling can apologize to another and the sibling could actually accept the apology, how much better a place we would be. I think there's a third answer that I want to focus on this week. We know the great rivalry that existed between Jacob and Esau. Finally, when they're looking to reunite, when Jacob is looking to come back to the promised land, he begins to bring gift after gift after gift to his brother Esau. And finally, you know what Esau says in response to all these gifts? Esau says, Yesh li Rav, which loosely translated means, I have enough. I have enough. Could you imagine any human being, let alone world leader today, who would respond to all of the conflict and tension? I have enough. Gunug. Let's take everything that's extra and let's give it to those who are in need. Make this, I don't need this extra. Why don't you give that to tzedakah? Yesh li Rav. I have enough. But of course, there's another way to interpret this text. Yesh li Rav. I have a rabbi. Yesh li Rav. I have someone to whom I can look to ask the great questions of this world and to gain wisdom from the answers. I have people that I can emulate, Esau perhaps said, which is why I'm a better human being today, Jacob, than when you and I fought some 20 years ago. And I wonder if in our pursuit of knowledge, we spend a little more time pursuing wisdom. And I wonder if in our efforts to grow, we don't ask how we can acquire more goods, how we can gain more land, how we can be a better religion than another religion. But what if we simply looked around us and said, who is one person that I want to be more like? How can I be more like this person? How can I benefit from their characteristics? Who do I look up to, and how can I be more like them? So that as I look upon myself year after year at this time when we start the Torah anew, I can proclaim with fullness of heart, Yesh li Rav. I have enough material goods, but I'm in search of wisdom. I'm in search of being kinder. I'm in search of being a better human being. And therefore I've found teachers, people I emulate to look to in order to grow. And these are the people from whom we ask the questions. How can I be better? How can I be more like you? How can I be more like you? How can I grow in this way so that I can declare with fullness of heart, Yesh li Rav, I have a teacher and I'm blessed. This Shabbat of Parashat Bereishit, we ask how we got here. How did the world get like it is today? And even more so, we're challenged to find the teachers who will offer us the wisdom to bring healing to the world and to make each and every one of us better human beings. Because that's our job. That's what the Torah tells us. How can we bring healing to the world? And how can each of us become better human beings? So as we're asking these questions, I have a few more questions in our Bible quiz to see how closely you've been paying attention. How did Adam and Eve feel when they were expelled from the Garden of Eden? They were really put out. What is one of the things that Adam and Eve did after they were kicked out of the garden? They raised Cain. You think about it. What excuse did Adam give to his children as to why he no longer lived in the Garden of Eden? You can blame your mother. She ate us out of house and home. On this Shabbat of Parashat Bereishit, may we be strong enough and brave enough to ask and seek wisdom. May we be wise enough to pursue a teacher who can help us bring healing to this world and make each of us better human beings. Kain Yehi Ratzon, let this be God's will, and let us say together, Amen.